Today we're going to do some maintenance on a good old thickness planer. This is an old Delta, and this particular one here, I actually put one of those helical heads in it. And we're also going to do this 12-inch Delta jointer. We'll do both of them. So we'll get started on it. First thing we're going to do is check the blades on this. Now, I know a lot of you, I'm the same way, you push your blades as far as you can, but the sharper your blades are, the better off you are. Your piece of wood won't slow down, everything just works better. Especially on a jointer. If you got a groove in a jointer, and then you joint your piece of wood, put it through the planer, it's going to be off a little bit. So make sure your jointer is really good. So we're going to check the blades on this, change the ones that we need to change, and then we'll get with the rest of them. On this particular model, I have to remove the dust chute, and then this piece here is just hinged. Alright, make sure you're unplugged. So what I first do is I go along, and on the helical head you can see these are all individual blades. So I just go along and I always just put an X on the ones that I have to change. That way I can just do a quick visual and then change everything out. That way, I'm just doing one thing at a time. This particular one here is kind of broken, so I will have to replace that. We do have some replacement ones. Now if it's not completely broken like this one, you could move this guy over to the end where it's rarely ever used. That's an option. I'll get these marked and then we'll switch them out. Pretty simple to change these out. Just a Torx. Pop them off. Now you got to make sure that these things are perfectly clean. So just use a knife. Scrape off any of the pitch. All you have to do is just turn the blade and away you go. Now this particular head is made by Bird, and they're really quite a quality head, and these have done us very well. I changed these out about 20 years ago and they're still just working like magic. That one we're gonna have to change. Remember, don't tighten these down too tight. You don't want to break a bolt off. That'd ruin your day. Just finishing up the last of the teeth here. It looks like somebody ran something through with a screw. Did some pretty good damage on this one. Next thing I want to do here is just clean up the rollers. You can see this one here has got I don't know. Could be some pitch. I think it looks like it's a piece of masking tape or something. But the rollers have got to be nice and smooth or it's just not going to work right. Now usually there's a lot of pitch buildup. And really the best thing for that is just some lacquer thinner. Long, clean these up. Oh, looks like could have been some pitch. It's coming off anyway. Now on the smaller planers, you usually don't have these bottom rollers, and you want to make sure that they're set properly. You want them just above your working level here. Usually just put a ruler on here. If you're working with really rough wood, you bring it up just a little bit more. And if your wood is really nice, just bring it just above. The higher it is, the more snipe you're gonna get. So if you're getting snipe, it could be one of the problems. Okay, I'll do the back one. Check the roller, just put a ruler on here. And you can see that it just rocks a little bit. It's all good. Now, if your rollers don't roll very well, make sure you put a little bit of penetrating oil on the bearing or on the bushing, I guess it would probably ride on. So now that we got that done, let's address this bed. One of the most important thing on a planer, this bed has to be perfect. If there's a little high spot or anything like that, your wood's going to grab a little bit. Needs to be waxed. But every once in a while you can see a little line here where a rock or a nail had gone through. Just to make sure, just take a file, make sure there's no little high spots. Let's go with the grain of how this is polished. Go in the middle here, check that out. Looks good. Now if there's some crud built up on here, some glue, some pitch, give it a little shot of lacquer thinner, and then I just use a little bit of 400 grit just to clean it up a little bit. Now it's just a simple little bit of wax. I've tried a bunch of different products, and I find the best thing is just a good old paste wax. This is so important to do. Prove it to yourself. Run a piece through, clean up your bed, wax it, and then see how nice it works. Now the only thing you have to do, now I'm assuming your planer's set up nice, your rollers, feed rollers are all set properly. I know we had to reset them when we put the new head in. If your planer isn't working right, you may have to go through your manual and set all that. Now, there are some moving parts that you can give a little penetrating oil to every once in a while. Some of these, you can see that one in behind us has got a chain that drives this one does as well, a little harder to get at. It's got a chain that drives the up and down because it's automatic. And every once in a while you have to blow that off, keep it clean, and give it a little bit of penetrating oil. Don't grease it, just a little penetrating oil. Other than that, that's all you really have to do. And to keep your planer maintained, 5 minutes is going to give you hours of enjoyment. Guaranteed. Let's move on to the jointer. The jointer, same procedure. Going to make sure that we check the blades, change the ones that we need to change, and then we're going to clean the bed up nice and flat. Give it a wax. Give this a wax. This here is another point. If you have to just put a little bit of penetrating oil, make sure your guards all work. And it's as simple as that. So let's get started by changing some of these blades out here. I see a couple of them already. This one's got the same type of a head as the planer does. So it's nice and easy. Change the blades out. We've got the blades all changed that need to be changed. Same procedure as your thickness planer. Just make sure that everything is perfectly smooth, clean, and a little high spot right there. Most important, wax, wax, wax. So typically, if you're using your jointer a lot, this should be done weekly. Or if you really use it a lot, you'll know. But keep it clean and waxed, and everything will work better. So we're going to wax the fence, the guard. That was pretty simple. Now, I do this, I go around to some different schools and I fix a lot of people's equipment for them. And the jointer is one of the ones that just gets neglected. For some reason, everyone thinks that it's just a jointer. But if you're a woodworker, this is where your project begins. So if you're not cutting nice and smooth, leaving deep grooves or a high ridge, or you're not even cutting square, you're not starting out right. So it just gonna make life a lot harder. Maintain it. Life will be better. One more thing. In order for a jointer to work properly, your fence has to be square to the bed. And you'll see that I'm just a little bit out on this guy. Perfect. What I found is, there's lots of little setups here, stops, bolts that you can adjust to keep it at 90. For some reason I find that for the most case they sometimes work, but always check before you start a project. The only other thing that you may have to check is just the tension on your belts. And that might be just as simple as a quick inspection, or you may have a panel to take off. But that's the only other thing you have to do on a jointer. They're pretty simple tools. The only other thing you can do is check your, make sure you keep your, most people once they've set their bed, they just leave it. They don't change the height or anything like that for as much, for what it cuts off. But read your manual, know your equipment, life will be a lot better. So it's pretty simple. Just a couple minutes every week, every month, depending on how much you use your equipment, and your equipment will work better and it'll be a lot safer. When you're, the big thing is something like this. When you wax this and you push a piece through, you'll really notice the difference when you've got fresh wax on there. So maintain your tools, be safe. So until next time, thanks for watching.